This is right about where I do some really bad joke about, it goes really good with coffee, but not basketball. Or it would be nice after Thanksgiving is turnovers. We're not doing that, but we kind of did. It's next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is POSTCAST as the Utah Jazz get blown out by the Oklahoma City Thunder, 133-106. Jazz actually started pretty well. Then the Thunder kind of owned the last part of the first quarter. Second quarter kind of went back and forth. Jazz were still kind of okay, but they were turning the ball over at an alarming rate. They tied somehow they seem to have tied the NBA record for most turnovers in a half, which I have a hard time believing considering I then found out the teams in Ron Boone's era committed 40 turnovers all the time. But then in the second half, the Jazz didn't get any stops. Like the Thunder, I think, shot 12 of 16 in the quarter. They shot 12 of 13 to start. Shea hit 7 straight shots. He got his numbers, and the Jazz got worked. What do you think Will Hardy's reaction post-game to this is?
I think he'll start by complimenting Oklahoma City. The way they took the Jazz out of things. The Jazz, for the most part, didn't get opportunities to drive to the basket, even though, for the most part of the ball game, they didn't have a shot blocker. Well, Hartenstein is definitely not what you would call a shot blocker. But it really just took the Jazz out of what they worked on this morning, what we saw. And let's back that up a little bit, because that starting five before the Jazz made some substitutions, I thought was getting the job done. And then they went on that string when they substituted, and now you're playing catch up, and that's awfully hard to do with this team.
I don't know. I asked you the question because I didn't know. I'm thinking Will's going to talk about this as a lesson to how hard it is. Like you've got to,
you start by complimenting them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got, I think, if you go back to what Will said pregame tonight about the Thunder, and then Mike Williams kind of reiterated to me at in the halftime interview, Will Hardy said, like, they're going to put pressure on the ball. You have to fight for your space. You're not getting any free catches. You're not getting any free actions. If you get an advantage, your teammates have to help you. I'm guessing he's going back there. That, like, if you're going to survive in this league, you have to be physically strong, own your position, fight back. And this is a lesson for us on what it takes against the best defensive team in the league.
And you're not getting anything free.
Right.
Got to work your butt off.
And I think that's, like, for a lot of young guys, that's probably a hard thing, because it's been pretty – if you're in the NBA, it's been pretty easy up to this point. Right? By definition, if you're in the NBA, you've been the best player on the floor in every game you've ever played. And now for the first time in your life, or maybe the third, right? Maybe you played 2 college games in your life where someone could actually get into your body and be physically strong enough and actually deal with you. But now they got 5 of them on the floor. They got Lou Dort, they got Jalen Williams, they got Isaiah Hartenstein, they got they're just coming at you.
I just wonder where was this Mark's philosophy all the time about how to defend you?
Well, Sam Presti's definitely drafted size, and in the same way Danny and Justin believe in positional size. They're oversized, right? Shea's 6'6". Jalen Williams is big for his size.
6'8".
Chad Holmgren's over his size.
6'5".
The only guy they have on their roster who probably doesn't fit their size is Cason Wallace, who starts as a little small, but he's tough. And then Isaiah Joe's probably a little small, but he can really shoot it. And so that's how it works, right? If you don't what's interesting to me about them.
But let me add to that, because usually you got a bunch of guys that can shoot it. Where's that defense come from? I mean, how does a coach talk you into being so aggressive defensively? You're coming up with strips and get your hands in on every play. Jazz got up 70 shots tonight.
Yeah.
That's not going to win any basketball games to go along with turnovers.
Well, and the interesting one is the Jazz actually shot it well against a team that teams have not, against a team that has not shot it or has not allowed teams to shoot. I mean, I'm looking back right now, Ron. If you go back to Mark Dagnall's first year, they go 22-50. They're 24th in defense, 30th in offense. They're horrendous offensively, but they played some D. In his second year, they're still terrible offensively, but they played D. They were 18th in the league. Then in the 22-23 year where they go 500, their offense finally gets better, and their defense is 14th. And then last year, their defense goes to 4th, and then this year and that's because they added Chet Holmgren.
Okay, so it's just the opposite of what I was thinking. So they have the defense all the time. Now they throw in some offense and some guys that can shoot it.
Yeah, sense. I mean, I think you could, like, if you're 30th in league defensively and 30th offensively, 18th defensively, that's pretty impressive.
Yes.
Because it's hard to play defense when your offense sucks.
So can the Jazz be on that same track?
Well, right now, no, because they're not. Because last year they were 30th in league defensively, and this year they're 27th, or 28th. But I do think they're getting better defensively, and maybe, you have to start. I don't know. I'd have to look at what, I don't know about our philosophy. Like, offense wins right now. I mean, that's what's like, this is all good that their defense is this good, but it's only works because their offense is now great. Yeah. And they got a Chet Holmgren that changed who they are.
Makes sense.
What was interesting, I thought also tonight, Ron, I would say, is it was clear at one point that the Jazz understood what the Thunder were doing. That when they got into the paint, the Thunder were bringing the weak side guy over, and so then the Jazz, then Walker was open for dunks underneath. Like, they had a stretch where they figured it out, then that went by the wayside.
The perimeter defense started to pick up.
Right.
And the fact that the Jazz now started trying to break the defense down, getting the basketball stripped. That's what I was so surprised at. It's how often Oklahoma City got hands in on plays and coming up with deflections and stripping the basketball, and then led to some fast break points. And that's interesting. They came up with tonight with some fast break points, say 25, and all of that comes with off the defense.
I mean, the interesting one is the Jazz defense ratings was like a 120 in the first and second quarters. You could be critical of that, but you're turning it over so much that seems really reasonable. The next day, though, in the third quarter, they literally had a defensive rating like a 180. That might be the one area where I think will be upset about things, would be that their third quarter was so bad defensively. And that's kind of a reoccurring theme for the Jazz. That might be. I'm looking at Will's body language right now. This is a coach that's, been through the ringer the last few days. Yeah. And I think is, we play 2 games in the next 8 days. That might be good for Will.
Yeah.
This is really hard for everyone involved. They just got hammered tonight. I mean, not surprisingly, right? This is arguably the best team in the league against one of the least good teams in the league. And this is a team playing with confidence and rolling, coming off a loss against a team that doesn't have a lot of confidence and gets really unsure of themselves when things go awry. And things were certainly going to go awry at some point tonight. There's anyone who is watching this show or watch this game and they're befuddled or stunned by the outcome tonight, like, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't. It's funny. We're doing a podcast and you really don't have a lot to say about.
Yeah, there's not. Right.
So,
the only one I think is really interesting we talked about, just a brief in the intro, that I think is important for fans. So if you go back to the Thunder's 22-50 year, their first year of the tank, they played Shea 35 games, and other than that, only Lou Dort and Kendrick Williams are still on the roster. In the second year, they go 24-58, and they're 21 and they only add Aaron Wiggins. They took 5 draft picks that year. They added Aaron Wiggins. Their last of the 5 draft picks is still on the roster today. So they went through the tank for the first 2 years, and there's an argument that this is our first year. Like, there's a real, and we probably we'll see how many pieces that we have that by the time we're good one day are still with us. They only have 4 from the first 2 years of this left. There's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously they got from the Clippers. Lou Dort, who was already on the roster, undrafted. Kendrick Williams, undrafted. And Aaron Wiggins, the second to last pick of the second round. And Kendrick Williams, they had signed after New Orleans let him go. He was basically somewhat on the scrap heap at that point. So those are the 4 players. Aaron Wiggins and Lou Dort and Kendrick Williams, to me, are important because those are all hard playing. They probably, if this team makes an NBA Finals, other than Lou Dort, they probably don't play a minute. But they're hard charging, play hard, those kind of guys. And obviously Shea. Then they added Isaiah Joe through Philadelphia, Jalen Williams through the draft, the other Jalen Williams, and Osman Jang, who's hurt right now and has not really developed yet in the draft picks. But like the other one I point out is like Trey Mann, Poshkashevsky, all their draft picks. They didn't. Josh Giddey, they're not here anymore.
Not here anymore. No.
So you can miss on a lot of these picks, but if you hit on Jalen Williams and you hit on Chet Holmgren and you have a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and then you get the right guys around it, you may be on your road. All right. Reliability squared. Anyone tonight?
I got.
Or do you have something you want to add on that?
I just wanted to add about the you're talking about the draft picks, and we're not, other than Holmgren, they got 4 undrafted players on this team, and let's see, Wallace was a 10th pick, Williams was a 12th pick, Alexander came in a trade, 11th pick.
Yeah,
there's no top 5 other than Holmgren,
right?
And so those, what you're talking about, hitting on some guys that can play. I mean, that's where they hit.
We're gonna hope a few top 5 picks hit.
Right.
Reliability squares for you.
I thought Kessler's first half.
Okay.
And I can't dig too deeper than that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Jazz. Ron Boone gets one tonight for taking my heat about the turnovers of his generation. Ron Boone gets his tonight. All right.
And you get one too because of Seattle and
Okay. Have a good one, you guys. See ya.